headed south now with a spicy black-eyed pea soup. And I actually learned to make this soup when I was in college. I worked at a restaurant and they made this all the time and it was delicious. So I kind of tried to get the chefs to give me the recipe and they wouldn't really do it, but I watched a lot. So this is kind of my take on the spicy black-eyed pea soup. It's so easy to make and it's so good. First I'm gonna start with an onion, just like I normally do for my soups. I'm just gonna cut it in half and give it a nice big dice. And while I do that, I'm gonna get my burner on and I'm gonna put it on about a medium-high. Might not use that whole onion because that is quite a big amount. I'm going to throw some olive oil into my pot, which is getting nice and hot. And I'm just going to give the bottom a nice thick coat. That's about 2 to 3 tablespoons. Kind of swirl that around and give that a second to heat up. I don't want my onions in there before the oil gets hot enough or they're just going to suck up all the grease and you'll have a bunch of greasy onions in your soup. And nobody likes that. I use the canned black-eyed peas. You absolutely can take the dried and soak them overnight if you wish. I tend to be really forgetful, so it's better for me to have some that are in the can. They're already nice and soft and juicy, so I don't have to worry about it when all of a sudden it's 5:30 and I'm like, what am I making for dinner? So I'm just gonna go ahead and open up those cans while this oil gets nice and hot. I'm gonna drain about half of the juice out of them. I guess it's not really juice, but it's more of like a saltwater solution. Right, you hear that sizzling? It's time for the rest of the onions to go in. Whoa! So I'm gonna keep out about 1/3 of those onions because that was a bigger onion than I normally use. And we don't need to make it too oniony. We'll just put those over there on the side. Get these guys going. This soup is so easy and so fast, and because it's beans, it's really hearty, so it's really gonna fill your belly up. So my onions have been cooking in that oil and they're nice and soft. You don't want them to get overcooked. You don't want crispy onions in this soup. So now I'm just gonna put my black-eyed peas in there, and I just have 2 standard cans of black-eyed peas that I've drained about half of the juice out. Okay, so now I'm just gonna add some chopped tomatoes, and you can use canned chopped tomatoes or boxed. I prefer the boxed. It's easier for me to kind of save the ones I don't use. And I'm gonna use about half of a box. So this is about 26 ounces. So the amount I'm gonna use is about the equivalent of 1 can of diced tomatoes if you wanna just go ahead and use the cans. And I want the diced tomatoes, or I use the ones that are not seasoned. So a lot of them will add basil or Italian seasonings. You want just the plain diced tomatoes. All right, so I'm just gonna pour those right into my onions and black-eyed peas. And like I said, I'm gonna use about half of this box. You don't want the tomatoes to overpower the black-eyed peas because they are definitely gonna be the star of the show. But you do wanna get enough in there that they're gonna mingle with that chicken broth that we're gonna add in a minute and just really give it a nice bright flavor. Now this is a spicy black-eyed pea soup, and what I use to get that spice are pickled jalapenos. And I like the pickled jalapenos because that kind of vinegar pickling liquid that they I guess soak or cure in or pickle in has just a nice tang to it, and I really like to get that tang into the soup. You can use as much or as little as you like. Sometimes I leave them out altogether if I know that I'm going to be eating this with someone who can't handle spicy stuff. I particularly like a lot of spicy stuff. Ooh, that opened a little easier than I expected. So I tend to be a little heavy-handed, but we'll do about a medium amount. So I'm going to take about a tablespoon. And I do want to give these a nice little chop. I just kind of want to mince them up so that they'll really mix around a lot with the soup. There you go, and that should do it. And then on top of that, I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of the pickling liquid to it. So like I said, it gives it a nice tang and also a nice little kick. nice and stirred in. Now this is a soup that when you're making it, you want to taste it a lot because sometimes the jalapenos might not be as spicy. So you want to really kind of be able to adjust those flavors. And I like to use the chicken granules. They're easier for me to stockpile, so I always have a couple jars of those in the cabinet. They don't go bad, but obviously if you want it to get the kind that's already in a can or in a box or make your own chicken stock, that's perfect too. You're gonna add typically 1 teaspoon of granules per cup of water that you put in. I'm gonna add a little bit more just to give it a little extra kick of flavor. And I guess this would be, each teaspoon would be the equivalent of 1 cube of chicken bouillon if you prefer to use the cubes. 2. So we're gonna go about 2.5 for this. And that's it. That's all you do for this soup. It's so easy and it's so quick to make. I'm gonna turn that heat all the way back up to a high and bring it to a boil. The longer it sits, the longer the flavors are gonna have time to kind of meld together and it's just gonna get thicker and richer and have deeper flavors. But you can also eat it right away. Turn that off. It smells really good. So, hope you can see this, but it's got all these wonderful colors in there. There's the beans and the tomatoes and those little pops of green from the jalapenos. And like I said, the longer it sits, even after it's done boiling, let me just actually take this off the heat, the more those flavors are gonna kind of meld together and it's gonna be really delicious. Now I'm gonna give it a taste. It is so good. It's so nice and tangy and it has that nice kick on the back of your tongue. I love the soup. It's always been one of my favorites and hopefully it will be one of yours too. So here we have a variety of soups to meet your every mood this fall. Something nice and light and healthy with our chicken bellies soup, a silky comfort food with our butternut squash soup, and when you want to kick it up a little bit, we've got the spicy black-eyed pea soup. If you missed anything today, or if you want to get more recipes like this, check us out on cox11.com. And don't forget to like us on Facebook at Karen is Cooking from the Heart. You saw how easy these were to make, and hopefully that will help remind you that you don't have to be a trained chef or cook to prepare delicious, healthy soups for your family and friends. You just gotta cook from the heart. In the oven. That is blocked by a box with all of my accoutrements. Gotta wait a couple minutes for that oil to get hot. Really hot. From the jalapenos. I totally spit. I'm gonna do that over. Nice kick.